Hello, everyone. It's so good to be back here today. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning in Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm super excited to be bringing you today's episode of the Davies Okeowo Show. I'm so happy and excited because today I have an amazing person on the show today, and she's already here. Hadeel is here, and I'm just going to be bringing her on board right away. Nation building, which is a subject that I'm very, very passionate about. And we're going to be looking at how creativity helps us to accomplish that. And we're going to be hearing from someone who has accomplished that already and is accomplishing that, using creativity to build our nation. So I'm super excited for what lies ahead today. Hadeel, are you here?
Hi, I'm here. Do you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh my God, not again. Um, okay.
So are you going to try to reconnect or something?
Yes, I'll try to do that. Because this is very strange. Okay, 1 second.
Okay, fantastic. No problem. All right, guys. So Adil's going to join us right now so that, I want you guys to get the full scope, get the full experience with Adil today. And for those of you who do not know, myself and Adil were listed on this year's Forbes Africa 30 under 30 list. Just 30 Africans, of all the millions of youths across Africa that are doing remarkable things, and for that, that is a great honor. And it was a platform upon which myself and Adil connected, and having gotten to know her a little bit, I could tell you that she's got an amazing story. And today we're going to be hearing all of that, and we're going to be seeing how, we can learn from that as well. Hadeel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Do you see me? Or are we still having
No,
issues?
I cannot. Yeah, we're still
Oh,
having issues. I can hear you, but I cannot see you.
I'll give it one more try. I really want this to work out.
Okay. I really do hope it does work out. I hope it does work out.
Thank you.
So for everyone watching, guys, just be patient with us, all right? We're going to sort out the technical difficulties. I'm sure that, things are going to work out. I'm a very optimistic person, by the way. I always believe that stuff is going to work out, and I believe that, the conversation with Adil today is going to be amazing. She's going to join us back in a few short moments, and we are going to delve into the thick of the conversation. And by the way, if you have not been following, I've been having a series of conversation with some amazing people, and I've had guests from all across Africa. We've had different conversations ranging from entrepreneurship to business to spotting opportunities, quite a number of things, and it's just been an interesting ride. So if you're not following me, ensure that you follow me at Davies Okeowo, and tell your friends, to follow me as well. Fantastic! Finally, I can see you.
I think I figured it out. It's one of my, because I use two SIM cards. I think it's one company that works better. So how are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well as well, thank you.
Awesome. You look great. You're brightening up my screen right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be part of this show, and congratulations on making it on the 30 under 30 list.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to you too. That is a really big deal. It's just such a really big deal. Yeah. So thank you very much. How's Sudan today?
Sudan is good. We have they're trying to implement more of a lockdown because people are still really not taking the situation very seriously. I've been home for 25 days and I'm not really sure how it is outside. But I'm staying in touch and just keeping up with the news. But I mean, things are okay, and it's hot. So how are things in Nigeria?
Well, parts of Nigeria, the major part of Nigeria, Lagos, Abuja, the main cities are on lockdown. We're now 3 weeks into the lockdown. We're heading into the 4th week. So it's been an interesting journey. I've been home for the most part as well, except for occasional trips to the store to get some groceries. But generally speaking, the commercial cities are on lockdown. All the other parts of the country are still free to move around. But Lagos is good. Nigeria is good. We're good with the weather. We're good. I think that for us, there's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of people believing that, this is going to go away really soon, and even the law enforcement are having difficulty keeping people at home, so but it's interesting.
Yeah, you can imagine. But hey, hopefully we'll get through this pandemic soon enough.
Definitely, we definitely will get through this pandemic. So, Hadeel, once again, you're welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you today because, again, we want to talk about how to contribute to nation building via creativity. This is something that you're doing already, and but before we get into all of that conversation, right, let's get to know you because the interesting thing about this conversation that we're having is that beyond the fact that we're blending minds and we're sharing ideas, we're bringing together conversations across two nations on the African continent. And it's an exposure of a lot of Nigerians that are watching to, a thought leader from Sudan. It's an exposure for a lot of Sudanese people that are watching, to a thought leader from Nigeria, and just to, blend those perspectives. So we have, a mixed audiences this morning. So tell us about yourself. How did Hadeel become Hadeel? How did all of this start?
Nice. Okay, so I'll start with the education side of things. I studied visual communication and marketing because I was always interested in everything that is visual, from film to design to even clothing. And I also wanted to learn the business side of things at the same time, because a lot of what happens is that creatives, they focus on the art more, and then they miss out on how to market themselves and how to be business savvy, So after that, I was studying in Malaysia and the States. And then after graduation, I went back to the UAE because my parents were living there at the time. And also that's where I was born and raised. And I worked there. I worked in digital media. I worked in public relations with one of the biggest public relations firms in the world. Right now, they Edelman. They do a lot of comms and marketing. So I got a lot of my experience. I worked for Abu Dhabi Media, which is the biggest media company in the United Arab Emirates. I was doing a lot of digital media work and TV work, and creating a lot of propaganda, which I'm not very proud of, but it was a great experience. It was a great experience because you got to understand how the human brain works and how TV and basically everything out there in the marketing perspective really shapes people's minds. And then because at the same time I was doing freelance photography, I was doing content creation for myself and for other people. I really wanted to dive in deeper into the visual aspect, like graphic design and just designing and the art direction and all these things. So I decided to move back to Sudan after 3 years in the UAE. And then from there, I started working in the film field and in the arts and culture field overall. I ended up getting an opportunity to work in Zimbabwe, and actually my previous boss in Zimbabwe, she's in the Forbes Africa list for 2018.
Interesting.
Which is very amazing, yeah. And she was a great mentor of mine. And then that was in 2017, and then I returned to Sudan in the beginning of 2018, and I just made it my mission to work as much as I can here, to create as much as I can, and to really find my path. And that allowed me to do like a
Oh, seems like we're having another technical difficulty. I was really enjoying, those insights that Hadeel was sharing. Hadeel, can you still hear me? Hello, Hadeel, can you hear me? Yeah, I can see you. Yes, so we're back.
Back to it. So yeah, like that allowed me even more exposure. So what I've been doing is basically working with creatives, working in the diverse fields, because I didn't want to just put myself in one box when I can do a lot, when I can learn a lot. And yeah, traveling across Africa has been amazing in terms of exposure. And hopefully I can just continue to do some more amazing work in Sudan as well.
Fantastic. That is such a remarkable story. I mean, from the education to the UAE to coming back to Sudan to trying out different things around creativity. That's truly remarkable. And, even that story in itself is loaded with a lot of questions. And I'm going to be asking some questions even from your story. First and foremost, why did you choose to come back to Sudan?
That's a great question. I wanted to come to a raw land. Basically, Sudan is very full of opportunities because the industry is just growing. It's just coming together. There's a lot of creatives with a lot of unlocked potential, and that's how I felt at the time. I wanted freedom in how can I explain this? When you live in a place like the UAE, you're very guided and you have to do certain things.
Yeah.
Your creativity is limited to what your boss or what your client wants you to do. The difference is in Sudan here, you can convince people a little bit more. And
freedom of expression.
In certain, yeah, in to a certain perspective you can, because it is my country. So in a way I can contribute more and have like that accountability. And in here, even though a lot of clients are a bit more traditional, it's still a bit easier because when you sell your idea in terms of innovate and like you're trying to innovate something, that can work.
Yeah.
And we use a lot of social skills here, so it also helps to have that in your side along with your creativity.
That's such an interesting point, and there's this saying that talks about, true leaders do not just go where the path leads, they go to where there is no path and then they leave a trail, and I think that is the approach that you've taken. And the important thing about that, and we're going to get to all of that, right? The important thing about that is it creates a model that a lot of other young people can follow. It creates, an example so people can say that if Hadeel can do it, then I can do it. People begin to see a new dimension of things and they get a new level of exposure, and that is truly remarkable. Now, another quick question I would like to ask you is this, around creativity as a thing. You seem to have been able to experience diverse aspects of creativity. You've been able to apply yourself in different creative areas. Now, I know I've come across quite a number of young people that are creatives that have had an issue with focusing on a specific area, right? So they're saying, oh, I'm good with graphics, I'm good with art, I'm good with, design. I'm not sure where exactly to focus on. How did you unravel that for yourself? Because not only do you have trails of all of those things across your experiences, but for the most part, in Davies Studios, you're bringing all of those things together. So for somebody who's just trying to figure themselves out, who's a creative, how would you recommend they start?
I would say take a year. Take a year where you focus on at least one thing at a time. So what I did was, because I studied a very diverse degree, in my degree I was able to basically do everything. We did editing, we did graphic design, we did filming, we did writing. So I was able to kind of like hone all my skills in that. But when it came to career, I didn't want to limit myself. So I started with public relations, which is, it's like mostly like human connection. It's interpersonal communication. It's a lot of writing. It's a lot of reporting. And then I was like, you know what? I think this is fine. This is not what I want to do exactly. Let me do the other thing. So I think it's important to allow yourself to diversify your experiences. I also recommend internships. I did 3 different internships. One was, and this was during my university years. I started earlier. Usually they recommend you start doing internships in your senior year, but I started doing them in my junior year. I did
junior year.
Yeah, I did a visual communication one, and then I did a marketing one for a nonprofit organization in New York. In New York, it's called Clean Water for Everyone. And my 3rd internship was at a fashion boutique where I did events and styling, and I created a fashion show and things like that. So having these experiences before graduation really kind of helped me see, okay, I think I want to try this and this and that, There's nothing wrong with being specified in your field early on, but I think what makes you stand out more is if you have a diverse background, because especially in the creative field, you don't have to stick to one thing. Like for instance, if you study law or engineering or science, you're expected to have to specialize in your thing, because it's a very technical field.
Yep.
You can, there's a bit more relaxation, there's a bit more leeway to it. And that's why I've decided to put all my skills into the Davies Studio. But at the same time, if you're just talking to me right now, I would tell you that I really love graphic design, I love styling, and I would be completely happy doing just these two. But I can do everything else, so why limit myself?
Exactly. I think that there are a few interesting points that you touched on there. You know, I've always told people that the best way to find yourself is to try every single thing that interests you. Because in the process of trying, in the process of applying yourself to the entire process, you're going to see what you truly enjoy, what seems like a chore, what seems, you know, like fun. You know, and you can from that process you can really discover what exactly it is that you're truly passionate about. So I really like the fact that you touched on the fact that you try to apply yourself to various different departments of creativity. You know, you got 3 different internships. You spoke earlier about the fact that, you know, you had a boss, you worked in Zimbabwe, you had mentorship. So I think that all of these things are critical for every single young person that is watching this, that is begin my journey creativity. And by the way, let me say a big shout out to every single one that is watching from Nigeria, from Sudan, from Botswana, from South Africa. I see a lot of people. Tobo Katola is always on this show. Such an amazing guy. You know,
He's
it was amazing. Very supportive, so amazing a guy, and little wonder, you know, why he's on the Forbes list. And, you know, let's talk about the Forbes list very quickly before we go into nation building. What do you think are the things about you that got you on that list? Because this is a list of just 30 people across hundreds of millions of Africans. 30 people under the age of 30 that has been singled out to be people that are remarkable and doing remarkable things. You know, and if in the email that I got, I'm sure that the same email that you got, you know, one of the things they stated was that you're one of the people that will believe, you know, will make Africa proud and then will grace the main cover of Forbes in itself. You know, how did you, what, in your own opinion, what got you on that list?
That is a very good question. I really put my heart and my soul into that application because for like the past 3 years, I've been telling myself, no, I'm not ready yet. I haven't achieved enough, all that. To be honest with you, I think it is that diversity, honestly, like the diversity in my career, the fact, and also like my hopes and my dreams for Sudan and for Africa as a fully functioning continent. I was very clear with what I wanted to achieve in Sudan and with the kind of work I really wanted to create, the kind of industries I wanted to be involved in, and the man and woman power that's required for that. I feel like they were able to see that it's not just passion, that those were not just words, but they were able to kind of back it up with my work in the continent and in Sudan. And, you know, they could see like, okay, yeah, she can do this and she deserves to be on the list. But to be honest, like for quite some time, I was very shocked. Like I could not believe that I was on the list. But it finally settled, and I believe that we all deserve to be on it. And I encourage everyone, any single young African, to apply, because why not? We need more people that are active. We need to know who you are. We need to know what you're doing so that we can support you, and you know, vice versa. So yeah.
Exactly. That is such an important thing to touch on, because you know, the story about how your work and your passion, because I always emphasize passion is never enough, right? Regardless of whatever it is that you talk about, you need to be able to show at least some glimpse, you know, some track record that you've been doing something in that dimension, you know. So the combination of the work and the passion and the African dream, if I could call it that, you know, the vision to build the nation, to build the continent, you know, for me, you know, it's always about helping Africa become a first world continent. And I believe that the way by which we can do that is to improve the quality of businesses that we develop on the continent, not just start small businesses and leave them small. Africa needs to develop startups that would transcend the continent and also transcend the world. I also believe that another thing that we must do in order to make Africa a first world continent is to ensure that we improve the quality of the policies that we push out, by government. So young people need to advocate for developmental policies that would improve the quality of life and economic opportunities for every single person. And lastly, I believe that we need to drastically work on improving the quality of our people. We have an amazing population of young people, but if we're not careful, it's going to be more of a liability than it is an asset. So what we need to do is to invest in our people drastically in order to improve the quality of our people, so that the mass population of young people that we have can be positive contributors to their local economies and to the African economy as a whole. So, that African vision, I think, was one of the things that also helped me in my own application to get on the Forbes list. And I'm seeing that same pattern in what you're talking about being very clear as to what you want to accomplish for Sudan, and how that contributes to the entire African narrative, which leads us into the conversation around nation building. For a lot of people, right, they are more concerned about the challenges that the nation has, or the inadequacies of government. I don't know if this is the same in Sudan, but in Nigeria, we tend to criticize our government a lot.
Exactly.
A lot.
Exactly.
We do it all the time. They're never good. They're never this. They're never that. And it comes a time when you should get tired of doing that.
Yeah.
You should begin to say, if these people are not doing as much as we expect, what can I do? How can I contribute? How can I ensure that I can fill in the gap where the government has failed? So for a lot of young Africans, I think nation building is something that we need to begin to actively think about, because we don't have to be in government to govern. We don't have to be in government to contribute. We don't have to be in government to become active citizens. What are your thoughts on this?
I completely agree with you. You are right. A lot of people focus on the negative because it's so easy. And obviously we all go through a lot. There's a lot of issues. Like, I can tell you right now, like, the electricity can go off at any moment while I'm talking to you. That's how bad it is, I can lose connection. Like, all these are issues, but the idea is, since we are educated, since we are working, we're already in what it is. If we have a day job, if we're entrepreneurs, we can contribute, and it starts with a simple discussion. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but the line is freezing up. It's becoming hazy. Yeah. So could you just repeat the last few sentences?
Yeah. I said, so it doesn't matter where your background is, really, as long as you're functioning and you have an idea, even if it's just to elevate how you're productive, or you have a small business or an idea for a business, how you can execute that. The idea is that we have to think long term, and we have to think bigger picture. For example, whatever I do, like, let's say I have a job, I have a client, and if I just think about, okay, I'm going to do this, it's going to be money for me, and it's going to be experience, full stop, I'm not really doing anything to elevate my nation. I have to think long term. I have to think, okay, how can I continue to working with this client? How can I make this client bigger? And how can I reach more people? How can I assist with creating jobs? Why am I just keeping my business for myself? Why don't I involve other people? Why don't I go and talk to the Ministry of Media and Culture, or involve associations of other artists? And education. Education is very important. I'm very big on that, informal education especially, because it's open to a diverse group of people. And it's not an idea. It's not bad to dream. Hello? It's kind of...
Yeah, you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I was saying, there's nothing wrong with having dreams, but more importantly, it's good to have a draft plan, like a blueprint of what you want to do next. And
definitely,
humans by nature, we're very selfish. So if for 1 second we just think about how we can better our surroundings, I think that's when we actually start working. We also have a lot of community-based issues in Sudan, aside from the economical and the social issues. Yeah, the social issues, basically. We have a lot of we have a lot of different tribes. We have a lot of different people from different backgrounds. And Sudan is huge in terms of land mass. So it's hard to decentralize your message. It's hard to decentralize your work. So it's important for us to put that extra effort to try and reach out to the other towns, the other cities, the other states. And a lot of entrepreneurs right now are starting to look beyond the issues in the surface, and they're looking at, okay, how can we change Sudan? After the revolution that started in December 2018, there's a lot happening. We were actually stifled by our government. Like, for instance, I was not, a lot of the work that I have been fortunate to work on in the past year, I would have never done that by myself, because it would be very dangerous, because I want to express certain things, and I want to say certain things, and I want to push a specific narrative. I would easily have been arrested, you know, for like worst case scenario. So simply as we used to have issues with being able to take pictures outside, or even to film or do things like that. But the good thing with the revolution, yeah, like you can easily get your camera confiscated and all that stuff, even if you had the paperwork, you know what I mean? So the situation changed now because of that revolution, because people stood up for something. So now we have a transitional government. Now they're trying to relook certain laws that were stifling our abilities to be productive. But more so, it just allowed people to just stand up and just take charge. And that's where it's good. So I feel like the next step is for us to start ahead, to learn more about the law system, to learn more about how we can empower the economy, to understand how creating simple jobs can actually elevate the standards of our lives and elevate the standard of our country. And really, it sounds a bit cliche. A lot of Sudanese people say this, but honestly, it is the time to put Sudan on the map, because for 30 years we were non-existent. Literally, nobody looked at us. If anybody looked at us, it was because of war and terror and things that I can tell you 99% of your average Sudanese citizen is completely against. So nation building starts with us, and it starts with putting our talents and expertise into actual movement, like actually moving it, not just talking. We have to deliver action, really.
Fantastic. And you know, the point on not just talking and actually delivering, you know, and putting the work in is super important, because for a lot of people, it might be, you know, the comforting way to go about it, the easy way to go about it in their mind might just be to sit behind their phones and type on their Twitter, you know, or their Instagram, and do Instagram or Twitter advocacy and stuff. And that is not a bad thing in itself, just that it needs to be backed up by action. Now, before I continue on those thoughts, you know, for everyone that is watching, you know, please ensure that as Hadeel is giving us those insights and thoughts, show some love, show some heart. Thank you very much to everyone who's joining in. And so I was saying that, you know, it is important that we put in the work with our businesses, with our social enterprises, with our NGOs, right? Even with our voices and our social media, we need to be able to ensure that we put in the work. Now, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this show and having this is because it gives us an opportunity to get insight into each other's communities. Africa, for the most part, has been not just divided by borders, but even by mental borders. You know, and if you take a look at Africa from the outside world, a lot of people look at Africa as like one big giant place that is so homogeneous, not knowing that, you know, we're all of those different 50-something nations with different complexities and different economies and different levels of development. But one of the things that this show enables us to do is to get an insight into each other's, you know, environment, and see, you know, what opportunities are there for knowledge sharing, what opportunities are there for collaborations, what opportunities are there for partnerships. And those things are super important. And I also like the point that you made on, you know, decentralizing the message, because it is very easy to sit in the nation's capital or the commercial capital of the country and say that you're doing great stuff, right? And that is not to negate whatever work it is that you're doing, but we also need to ensure that the same way we're trying for the government to create inclusive opportunities, we also must be inclusive in the opportunities that we create.
Definitely.
right? Because it is very easy for us to sit back and criticize the government for what they're not doing, but then in our own businesses, we're not even inclusive. You know, we segregate, around class, we segregate around location, we segregate around disability, around gender, around all of these things. You know, even around political lines, it's super crazy. We all need to ensure that we bring in this changes. So from that point, right, from that conversation, because you talked about the revolution, which, you know, the success of the revolution was driven primarily by people who said we are not going to continue to be oppressed, and we are going to build a Sudan of our dreams and usher in a new Sudan and get Sudan on the map. Why is it important for young people to take a stand?
It's very important for young people to take a stand because we were all born having seen nothing from how Sudan was 30 years prior. You know, because before the previous regime, Sudan was very different. It was very open. It was very stable. It was basically a hub for a lot of trade, a lot of work. And it was doing very well economically. Education was the best, one of the best, you know, but everything went downhill. So most of the people who were born, the generation that actually were on the streets, the largest portion of that, we do deserve better, you know. And a lot of the movement was also led by young women, which is huge because we were also very much completely overlooked, you know, prior to the revolution. There were not a lot of rights towards us. We were hushed always. We were always put in bad positions. Yes, we were allowed education to a certain degree, but then the aspirations were very low. So it is, especially, and I'm talking about this especially as Sudanese youth, and I'm sure that other African youth can relate to this, is that if you are born in a position where you had no say, you had the least level of aspiration, and the road ahead of you was basically doomed, you reach a point where you're like, enough is enough. Why? Because we're in the age of internet. So it doesn't matter what class you are from or what part of Sudan or Africa
Exactly.
you are from. You can have, even if you have a very simple smartphone, you can easily go online and see what the other side has, and you're like,
Exactly.
why can I
Why
not
don't
have
we
that?
have this?
Why don't we have this? Okay, until when am I going to keep blaming the government? If the government, especially in our case in Sudan, the previous president would go on stage and start dancing and talking about, oh, there's no disease, oh, there are no problem, oh, you have to stay home or else you will not be safe anymore. Like all of these subliminal messages, you reach a point as a young person where you're like, this is nonsense and I have nothing to lose. It reached a point where we did not really care if we were going to die. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, when we would go out in the street, there's tear gas, there's stray bullets, there's rubber bullets, there's anything is possible.
Damn.
You can get arrested, you can get put in really horrible positions, and you can get tortured. And they just reached a point where everybody was like, what is there to lose? Because if I'm going to die, at least I did something. So that shows you the level of desperation we have reached as a people. And this is even far away from from creating actual jobs and making money. This is from basic human rights. There were no
exactly. I mean, because businesses would not even thrive in such an environment. So this is not about, just the idea of making money. No, because where there are no basic human rights, where there's no freedom of expression, you could even create some literally some artworks that you cannot even put out there, for fear of. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like the arts and culture field, Sudan is very rich in terms of arts and culture and music. So the fact that everything has been under, like there was an underground scene for close to 30 years. A lot of what we did had to be under the protection of an international umbrella. So for example, the British Council, Goethe Institute, the French Institute, a lot of the European embassies, the American embassy, depends on what you're doing. So a lot of them would hold like art galleries, and they would do workshops, and they would do some things, but it was very, very selective and very quiet, because they didn't want to, we obviously, people that work in the industry, did not want to attract negative attention, because any attention you get from the government is bad. It can shut you down, it can get you arrested, it can just get you to be questioned, which is already enough, scary enough as it is, you know. And not to say that the people have been working, especially in the past 10 years. Since 2010, the underground arts, culture, and music scene was starting to flourish quite a bit, but people were still playing it safe. They were still playing it safe. But it's such a huge relief right now when you see everyone is expressing themselves and working comfortably. Filmmakers are able to go down the street with their huge gear, their very expensive cameras, and no one can say anything to them. The fact that you don't have to bribe multiple people to get a single piece of paper has stopped. And the fact that the system is slowly but surely changing, that's great. And that's because we just kind of honestly reached a point where we're like, okay, this is it. Enough is enough. And we need to do what we need to do. So now comes the turn where we're changing the art scene from something that people do as a passion to an actual industry. People right now are to slowly and make money out of what they practice, whether it's graphic design or photography or even styling or even fashion design. People are starting to understand that, okay, in the global context, there are specific industries, there's a chain reaction, there's a supply chain, there's different components to everything that I do. Okay, that means a team. That means I need to educate myself more. I need to enroll in all of these programs, whether they're online, whether it's provided by places like British Council and whatnot in Sudan, or even just doing talent exchange across Africa as well, because we need to have that regional mindset. We need to understand what
exactly.
We need to know what the other East African countries are doing, and what Southern Africa is trying to evolve into, and what West Africa is about to do. So it's good to learn from each other and continue to create and innovate. And one last thing about that, I'm very proud of like a lot of the diaspora that are returning to Sudan with their knowledge.
Interesting.
With their money, which is important, you know, with their business-mindedness, with their experiences. They're all coming back here and they're setting up shop, and whether it's a company or investment or anything, and they're employing people that are living here, that have been living here for quite some time. So yes, they're creating jobs, but they're also teaching the current
people,
generation how to go about things, how to stand out. And they're giving opportunities, which is great. And I like it that they're doing it very selflessly, because that's what the spirit of the revolution has evolved in all of us, to be honest.
Wow, that is truly remarkable. That is truly, it's such an inspiring story, you know. And, you know, right now, the only thing I can think about is I need to get myself into Sudan at some point and see what's happening on the ground there, right? So don't worry, whenever it is that I'm able to make time down to come to Sudan, obviously we would connect and then we would see, because I would really love to see firsthand how that resurgence is happening. You're talking about, you know, a country that has gone through such an oppressive regime and, you know, staged a revolution and essentially liberated itself. And then you're having a lot of, you know, Sudanese nationals that are, you know, in the diaspora coming back to the country, bringing all of their knowledge, their experience, their money, you know, establishing local industries. You were talking earlier about, you know, making creativity not just a passion, but an industry where people can make money from the things that they do. And that is really remarkable. Now, still on the theme of nation building, right? Some of the common things that I've seen from the experience in Sudan that you've shared, from a little bit of study on South Africa that I have done, and from some of my experiences here in Nigeria as well, is when it comes to development, businesses, policies, education, those are like essential things, essential building blocks. So talk to me a little bit about how those building blocks, how you're seeing these building blocks shape Sudan. And I'd like you to talk from the perspective of what you're doing, so that would give us an insight as well into Davos Studio, you know, because I know that in your studio, right, it's not just about the creativity and all of the different dimensions of creativity. There's education involved. There's sustainability involved. right? So talk to me about, in fact, don't let me lump it together. Let's talk about Davies Studios first, and then we'll talk about the other question later. Talk to me about how you evolved from just doing creativity, and then from that point you moved to creativity as a tool to develop Sudan, and then embedding education and sustainability into all of that. Tell us, what exactly is that? How does it play out? And what has been the feedback thus far?
This is my favorite question.
Awesome.
To be honest. It's very simple, really. I decided, like, when I came back from Zimbabwe in 2018,
yes,
I wanted to do something more. So I've always wanted to have my business. That is something that since I graduated, I'm like, I need to have my own business. But it's when I returned here that I was like, okay, so I kind of put a piece of paper and I said, what are the things I'm good at, and how can I make them into services that I can provide? So I listed the things down. In the beginning, they were fashion styling, it was graphic design, it was basically all the things that you see now in the studio. And then I was like, okay, so how long do I need to evolve this? And I honestly I decided to be like, okay, I'm not going to operate as Hadeel, I'm going to operate as the studio from now on. And I started slowly ingraining that into people's brains. And I did my first ever workshop. I gave a workshop on fashion styling for film at the Sudan Independent Film Festival that same year. And it was through my previous boss's encouragement, who was one of my mentors here. He was like, if we don't have anyone who's specialized in costume design and styling, so why don't you consider that as a field to really get into, because that's something you do. So I was like, okay, that can be a service I can provide as the Woo Studio as well. And so I started to slowly push that narrative out there before even getting like a business name, before even writing a business plan, before even having any clue of how that kind of functions. And then after that, I got enrolled into a creative enterprise workshop in Uganda. And I went there, and that was brilliant because it gave me the steps to make it into a company. And at the time, I think I named it the Woo something. It wasn't like it was a very made up name. I wasn't even sure what it was. I think it was like the Woo, styled by the Woo or something like that. And then it became the Woo Studio in May 2018, like officially. I had a logo. I did everything. I had branding. I had like specific paperwork and everything's ready to work with clients. So that is just something that I was able to do if I was in another country, maybe not as easily. And then I started to travel again. I decided, okay, even when I travel, I want to establish that I provide these services everywhere across the continent. It's not just Sudan. So now I have clients in Sudan. I have clients outside. It just kind of depends on what they want me to provide, what they want me to do. And that's basically how it grew. And it's been, for the most part, it's been a one-woman show, to be honest with you. But I'm very fortunate to have a lot of friends in the creative field. When we have larger projects, I would just call them up and I would hire them. And then we would discuss terms and conditions, we'd discuss money. I also have friends with production companies, and when they need my services, whether it be like creative direction, art direction, or even directing, whether it's a commercial or short film or something, they would call me and they would address me as the Woo Studio. And that's when I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. We're a company talking to another company. I think I've made it clear where I'm heading now. And so this is the how it was formed side. In terms of education, I am I told you, I'm very passionate about informal education, because this
that's a huge passion of mine too.
Yes. Formal education in Sudan, quality is unfortunately very subpar or quite low, depending.
Same here.
And I'm talking about my field, like you told me, so I'm talking about creative fields. There's only one university that provides a Bachelor of Arts in Fashion Design, for example. Only one. And the program is really not that strong. And one of the, I have a very good friend of mine, she's an established fashion designer here. She was a student there and she taught there. And I'm gonna be having a live with her in the next in the upcoming days. So she will be talking about that as well, because it's very discouraging when you are creative and you realize there's only one place that provides what you need to study, and all of the books and everything is very old. It's not up to date. It's not very like, it's just taken as very lightly. Like, there's another university that offers communication and graphic design, two universities actually, but the programs are very basic. Like, they make you feel like, oh, maybe you're not good at science, so you should take it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Even the curriculum is not very encouraging. Like, it just makes you feel like, yeah, you have to have the full passion from yourself. So the fact that the level of education is not that good, a lot of it is not taught in English as well, which is a problem. I think that education should be, university should be in English, because that is the formal language for the workplace. You know, it's not bad
Definitely.
to have it as well, but we need people proficient in English.
And this is what makes informal education super important, because then if the formal education is not up to standard, because what you've just described is essentially the same situation with Nigeria. The standard of education is very, very low compared to, you know, I'll give you a funny story. While I was in my final year in university, the notes I was taking in class, because I was the governor of the class, so it was the notes that my lecturer took in his MBA class in 1987.
Oh my God.
So he literally gave me the note, and I had to go make photocopies of it and give to the class. It's crazy. Our education is so backward, and you know, I think that it's the reason why informal education is of critical importance. And for entrepreneurs like you and I, thought leaders like you and I, it is important that we leverage our exposure and our knowledge base to provide these informal education opportunities for people.
Yes, exactly. I agree with you 100%. And it's the same situation here in terms of like how old the materials are that are being taught. Now, I'm again, like, back to informal education. So I've given right now a total of 3 workshops, and they all had to do with fashion styling, or just understanding the importance of fashion in the visual aspect, and specifically in film. Because film is really seeing a huge rise right now in Sudan, and that's great, because it's a wonderful medium to share our stories with the world, to share our narrative, our language and our traditions and whatnot, or even just to share a story written by a Sudanese person with no context of Sudan. That's also a good thing. But the thing is, I've also been a student for informal education since 2018. I've been going to several workshops. I've even had the great opportunity. There's a program that was created recently by Goethe Institute in Sudan, and as well as Friedrich Ebert Foundation, which is the social political German foundation. And they created something called Creative Campus, and the program is beautifully named Strengthening Citizens of Sudan.
Awesome.
So I was chosen amongst a group. We were 20 in total, and then we were taken to Addis Ababa in September.
Ethiopia.
Yeah, Ethiopia. Yeah. And we did a 10-day workshop, and then we did a trainers a training of trainers. And the beautiful part is, that was not just the end of the road. Once we came back to Sudan, we were asked to create different programs for upcoming creatives, where we can engage them, where we can push the envelope a little bit. And right now we're working on a curriculum specifically for a Sudanese creative person in Sudanese, like in our language, in our dialect.
Wow, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, and the program is going to be like design thinking, business implementation, creative enterprise, how to make it happen. And then, because out of the 20 of us, everyone is from a completely different creative field. You have musicians, you have radio people, you have filmmakers, you've got graphic designers, art directors, fashion designers, anyone in the creative field, artists, photographers, and so on. So because you have out of all these 20 people, everyone is from a different category, basically. We will also going to give people specific classes in terms of what we do. So let's say a creative is interested in art, then they will get to go to the art session, where they can understand how they can elevate themselves from just being, you know, an at-home artist or something, to someone that's selling out galleries across Africa. You know what I mean?
Great.
So this cycle of I'm also learning and I'm also teaching is very essential, because I'm constantly renewing my data and my information and my knowledge.
Exactly, and you're getting updated as you train, because again, when you train other people, you get to know more.
Yes, exactly. And you figure out what works for them and what doesn't. You also figure out what information really matters and how you can contribute, and to make the field very diverse, because we have a very cliquey culture, especially in Khartoum, where it's like if five people are known to do a specific job, everyone will go to them. And I'm very opposed to that. I like the fact that we have five specified people doing a specific job, but I think it's important to give
That you
opportunities.
decentralize.
Yes, to just decentralize, to go work elsewhere in other states. And I'm right now
Regions,
applying
yeah.
for a program where hopefully, if I get selected, I'll be able to go to other states in Sudan and then give these actual lectures and be part of evolving the industry there. So fingers crossed. Once this Corona situation settles down, then I can also contribute to other states in Sudan, which is important for me.
Fantastic, fantastic. You've got such an amazing story, Hadeel, and I'm super proud of the work that you're doing. And I mean, how can somebody be in this space and not be on the Forbes list? I mean, you deserve every single, every
You
single
too.
great thing that comes your way. Definitely, definitely. It's such an inspiring. In fact, I was just taking a peek at the time right now. We're 50 minutes in already. And
Nice.
the show is supposed to be somewhere between 45 minutes and 1 hour. So, I mean, it just goes to show that time flies when you're having fun. Time
That's
flies when you're doing great stuff. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of every single person that you've created an opportunity for and that you're creating an opportunity for. Because even if you don't realize it yet, for those that are watching, let me say this. This is how people pave paths for industries to develop. Essentially, what Hadeel was doing here is opening up access to the creative industry in Sudan. And I'm sure that as time goes by, that is also going to spill over into neighboring countries, into the whole of Africa. And even as we begin to have these conversations and these collaborations and these partnerships, we're going to be able to support each other to get into each other's territory, and also maybe bring Hadeel to Nigeria at some point, talk to creatives here in Nigeria. It's
I have a
such.
lot of very good friends in Nigeria, so I cannot wait.
I mean, Nigeria is like we're huge when it comes to creativity. We've got Nollywood, which is super huge. Even globally, we've got all of this other things. So it's such a remarkable story, Hadeel. Thank you very much on behalf of every single person that you're creating an opportunity for. So let me ask you my last serious question. Right, last serious question. So what is next? You've done all this. I know that you're still doing a lot more. What is next in terms of the work that you do? Because right now, it's in terms of the impact that you've created, you've come a long way already, right? What are the next frontiers that you're looking to break? What is the next big challenge?
All right. So what's next? We really want to expand now. I want to officially have training programs for people to enroll and to have them working with us soon. I hope so. I want to expand my team. I want to really continue to dive into the educational aspect like we talked about. I want to give the youth, especially because with the educational programs that we're working on, we don't want it to be where, okay, you come and you do the workshop and you leave. We really want to create that industry. I'm hoping to also look into investment at some point, or understanding financing, because I would like to have a space that is open for creatives, for them to do their work, to get their education, and to showcase their work so they can make money out of it. So to have some kind of
Fantastic.
that's in like my next couple of years plan. And to also have, because again, in terms of sustainability and stuff, we also want to make things. We want to push that narrative as well, because there's a lot of waste, there's a lot of pollution, there's a lot of mismanaged sources or resources that people can leverage to create art pieces with, that they can actually change and build things with. So the idea is to have like a small tiny factory or manufacturing house, and to hire people and to treat and have them to be treated fairly and ethically throughout the process of what we make. So yeah, those are the plans. Like I said, it's out there, and I really hope it comes to fruition soon enough.
These are really interesting plans, and I'm sure that, you know, with your personality and your doggedness and your perseverance, all of these things are definitely going to come to pass. And I can't wait to see them happen and to have a conversation with you about, you know, the growth, development, and see all that is happening. It has been now such an amazing time with you. And guys, now to everyone that's watching, we cannot exhaust this conversation. So what I'm going to advise you that you do is that you follow Hadeel. So go on an Instagram page right now. I think she's at Hadeel, MSH, right?
Yeah, yes.
Fantastic. So just go on our Instagram page, follow her, and consume. You're going to see quite a number of other pieces of content that she's created, and you can also get to learn more about Hadeel and the work that she's doing and see how that work can benefit you. If you're not following me yet, please ensure that you follow at Davies Okeowo as well. You know, I take time out, bring this live series, different thought leaders across Africa, sharing insights on the things that we all are doing so that we can create the common core for Africa to develop. So it's such an interesting thing to do. So please, guys, ensure that you follow me at Davies Okeowo, follow Hadeel as well. Now, Hadeel, before you go, let me ask you some quick fire questions that will get us to know you better. Are you ready?
All right. Okay, I'm ready.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, would you rather do music or movies?
Movies.
Movies, interesting. Would you rather play sport or play video games?
Sports.
What sports do you play? Do you play any sports actively?
I used to play tennis and badminton. What else? Yeah, football when I was much younger. But just
okay.
But you know, hiking is definitely my thing right now.
Hiking, interesting, interesting. So you are outdoorsy, go out and all that.
Yes.
Fantastic, awesome. So would you rather do tea or coffee?
Tea.
Tea, interesting. So outside of Sudan, which is your favorite African country?
That's a tough one. Putting me in a very tough spot, but I'd have to say I really, really enjoyed Rwanda, big time. Rwanda is one country that I so look forward to going to because the startup ecosystem, what is happening there with regards to entrepreneurship is just truly remarkable. I look forward to being in Rwanda at some point. Yeah, people are saying Zimbabwe. Yeah, I've seen quite a number of comments. Yeah. Okay, so next question. Would you rather read a book or you'd listen to a podcast? I would listen to a podcast because, yeah, my attention span has reduced a lot. Which is a typical thing to say, but yeah.
Well, podcasts are really interesting because, again, you know, it gives us this opportunity to listen and they'll still be involved in something else as well. You know, I enjoy doing podcasts, listening to podcasts a lot when I'm driving, you know, before the whole coronavirus thing came, you know, but it's just, it's just an interesting thing to do. Okay, so what other question do I have for Hadeel? So, of all of the different areas of creativity that you've explored, if you were to pick one, which would it be? Which would be your mainstay?
Styling. I love clothes way too much.
Styling, awesome, awesome, interesting. Okay, last question. What impact do you want to have on the world?
I want to create jobs. Simple.
Interesting, interesting. I think that is truly remarkable because I remember that when I started out, at the point when I found myself and I discovered that entrepreneurship was what I wanted to do and build businesses, the driving force behind it was to create a job. To create jobs. I remember that at that time I set a mission that over my lifetime I would create 1 million jobs. We're on track. We're going to see how that goes.
Well, I mean, you're on the focus after 30 under 30, so you'll definitely do that. You'll achieve that.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you very much, Hadeel, for coming on the show. It has been my pleasant pleasure to have you. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to download this episode, extract the audio, and put it on my podcast. I'll let you know when that happens so that we can refer people there to listen as well.
That's really good.
Awesome. 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 Thank you so much, Hadeel. It's been awesome having you.
Yes, you too.
Awesome. Awesome. Greetings to your family. Greetings to everyone in Sudan. Keep doing what you're doing. And guys, everyone who tuned in, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, follow me at Davies Okeowo. Follow Hadeel as well, and then you can continue to follow us in terms of the work that we're doing to develop Africa. You can also follow Forbes Africa, and you're going to see some of the remarkable things that a lot of young people across Africa are doing. This stream is going to end in 10 seconds. So guys, remember, it's not about what you've learned, it's about what you do with what you learn. So take action. Thank you, Hadeel. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Bye.